welcome to a full and complete test of the KTM 790 Adventure R. I've been longing to ride this bike for a very long time. I had a test booked 1 year ago, but I managed to break a finger, so that didn't happen. Anyway, since then we have tried out the Tenere in a Supertest, and I also have a lot of experience from my 1290 Super Adventure R, and we'll compare with these two bikes coming from different ends of the adventure bike spectrum. What I find really interesting is KTM has chosen to put the tanks here to lower the center of gravity of the bike. The only question is, will this be durable enough to take a tough impact, or will you end up with a fuel leak? The weight difference towards a 1290 Super Adventure R is not huge. I think it's about 30 kilo-ish. But how it feels when you when you push it around, feels significantly easier. And if you have to lift it, there is some difference here. You can tell that, and that might not be so much because of the lower weight, but I think mostly because of the lower center of gravity. And the suspension travel is also very high. It's 240 millimeters. That's a lot if you compare, for instance, with the normal enduro bike that has 300. The Tenere 700, the main competitor here, has I think it has 220 around ish. So this one's got a little bit more. Under here you have the adjustment of the fork legs. You have the preload on both parts here of this fork, and then you have rebound, and you have compression damping there. Very easy to reach, works well. And under here you have the possibility to select preload. On the rear suspension, and I think on the other side you have different settings regarding high and low speed compression as well as rebound. So the suspension on this motorcycle is really fully adjustable front and rear, which is something that I really like. You can set the handlebar in a couple of different positions. There are 3 different holes here. Tire dimensions are 150/70 by 18 in the rear, and the standard 21-inch 90/90 front, and that is exactly the same dimensions as you have on the 1290 Super Adventure R that I ride today. Brakes are 2 disc brakes with 320 millimeters in diameter, and 4 piston calipers in the front, and you have a smaller disc here in the rear with 2 piston calipers. I think it's 260 millimeters. The brakes are virtually, well, in the front exactly the same as in the 1290, and in the rear only slightly different. So this will be plenty strong enough for this lighter bike, I presume. And the engine, which is hidden here somewhere far beyond all these plastic fairings and stuff, is a side-by-side twin with 799 cc's of displacement and 95 horsepower in peak power. So it's significantly down in power compared with the 1290, which has 160, which is most of the time, at least with off-road tires, totally useless. It's too much. But if you have street tires on, you can enjoy that in another way, of course. You can compare it with the Tenere, which has around slightly less than 700 cc's and slightly, I think it's around 75-ish horsepower. The sound from the original exhaust is pretty muted. You hear some sort of a twin burble there, but what dominates is some sort of mechanical sound from the engine. The whole sort of screen holder or bracket, if you will, is very large, whereas the screen is small, which looks a bit goofy to me, but minor issue obviously. There's a lot of menus to select from. You obviously have KTM My Ride with navigation and pairing with your Bluetooth devices. Trip, ride mode, street, rain, off-road, and then the rally. which is the one that I select, and then you can select throttle response, street, which is normal, rally, which is very much on-off, and off-road, which is really sluggish. Can be used when you're really tired after a long day of off-road, long arms, but I use street most of the time. Then I left rally, and then you have of course the other off-road and rain modes. Apart from that, you have the MTC, so traction control, and also this is stability control, lean angle sensitive. You have different ABS modes, totally off like that, or road off, and then you have road, which is on, and off-road, which disables the ABS on the rear wheel, so you can lock that up, which is useful in off-road environments. Then you have quick shift, which is always on, of course. What else is there? Apart from that, that's minor issues only. There's a lot to select from. It's sort of the antithesis of the Yamaha Tenere 700, which is very simple and works well still. Here you have all the possibilities to customize your riding. KTM has chosen to put the grip heating outside the menu system, so that's here in what looks like an aftermarket solution. There's standard key ignition. You put it on like that. The front screen is not adjustable on the go. You have to unscrew this little screw here. You can select two different positions, the higher and the lower one. A little Easter egg that KTM has done for us. You just pull this away, and on the inside of it, there's this little storage compartment here. The seating position on the 790 the 790 Adventure R is quite compact in its original form. I had provided as much room and as high a handlebar as possible with the options that you have from the factory. I'm just moving around these brackets and stuff, but I still had to apply some risers to it, and now I sit comfortably. I have not put on any lower foot pegs. Should I own the bike, I would do that as well. But the sitting position is quite similar to the 1290 Super Adventure R, which is also quite compact. The engine is it's pretty smooth on this one. Maybe not quite as smooth as the engine on the Tenere, but it feels actually smoother, slightly smoother than the 1290 when it comes to vibrations. It's a lovely bike to ride on a road like this. It's fast. Engine feels torquier than I had expected. Let's try the acceleration then. I mean, this motorcycle is plenty fast. It will hold more than enough power for almost everybody. It's certainly enough for me. It's stronger and wilder than the Tenere, that's clear. It's not as torquey as the 1290, but you know, the difference in practice, how fast this is on a road versus the 1290 is not huge. If you do a drag race, there will be a difference, of course, but it depends on how much of a power addict you actually are. Gearbox is an absolute delight to use. I haven't found any false neutrals in it. It just works just the way you expect it to. It's not very clunky, small, effective clicks. And you can also use the quick shifting function, which I have enabled now. Now I'm shifting down. I just press the pedal a bit. It works really great. It's a bit of a jerk, of course, depending on how much throttle you do when you quick shift. Testing the torque, if I'm fourth gear now, at about 2000 revs and full throttle, and it goes. Torque is surprisingly strong in this 800cc engine. I like it very much. When you're riding on the road, the suspension feels firm, effective. It's well, I think it's having an easy time. It's designed for much more challenging off-road tasks than this, of course, but it works well anyway. So now I am cruising at about 120-ish, and I'm afraid to say there's quite a lot of wind vibration in my helmet now. The wind protection in this motorcycle is not very good. I have a lot of turbulence, and should I ride like this for a long time, I would become very fatigued and slightly irritated. So the screen is now in its higher position. I tried the lower position yesterday and that was not much better. I've now been riding for like 2 hours, and I can feel my rear side here a bit stiff. So I think this original seat on this bike is it's okay, but not more. The overall balance of the 790 is so much better than on the 1290. It just makes it easier to ride in these types of conditions. The chassis and the suspension components on this bike are superb. Really good. It feels a bit harsher than on the or a bit more firm, I would say, than on the 1290. You need a slightly lower gear on this one to have the same traction as the 1290. Of course, it's a smaller engine, but it's strong, plenty strong enough. It stalls easier than the big V-twin and the 1290, and apart from that, I think the 790 has a brilliant little engine. No bottoming out on the suspension today, although we've been riding in whoops and everything. This is clearly a very, very capable suspension components on the 790. I think it's a dream bike in these kinds of environments where you fast gravel roads. It brings you more confidence than the 1290.
Trying to sort of sum up this fantastic day with the 790 Adventure R. Today has been a total focus on off-road, like light enduro tracks, gravel roads and such stuff. I mean, going through the different parts of the bike, if you start with the engine, I mean, you're a power addict usually.
Yeah,
What do you think about the engine?
It's a really nice engine, and of course it needs a little bit more rev than the 1290, but it's beautiful, and it really gets going when you get above 6,
7-ish, like that. I also think, I almost think it's fun to have. I mean, you don't get all of it at once, but and then it really comes. And if you're on a winding road, working with the gearbox up and down, it takes
a bit of getting used to, I think.
Yeah.
Coming from the,
from the 1290.
Yeah, tremendous torque and at low revs.
Yeah.
This one needs a little bit of.
Gearbox, I have no issues. Works well.
Yeah.
What do you think about the quick shifter?
I love the quick shifter. I'm getting used to it more and more now. So
yeah, I have it on the 1290 too. I think it's great. It's a bit more doom. It's more of a jerk to it than on the 1290. You have to hold on sometimes when you.
I think it feels really, really good.
Yeah. Minor issue, I would say. Big thing, of course, on the 790 suspension today, like on a gravel road that's up and down. And what do you think about it?
I think we haven't seen sort of the end of it today during these tracks.
No bump throughs for you?
No bump through. I see that it's quite clean all the way down, so we have been there.
We've been there, but not quite at the end.
No. I really like it.
I mean,
it has taken us through. I mean, everything we've been riding today.
Yeah.
Gravel roads, enduro tracks, sand. Not enormous jumps, but still some
pretty deep whoops and
yeah.
coming. Still not bottoming out really. And we haven't even been fiddling with the suspension yet. No. When it comes to sort of how it handles in the dirt, what do you think?
When you come from the 1290, you have a lot of kilos quite high up, and that I would say is the biggest difference for me. It feels really much easier to handle in almost all situations. I think you dare to go
faster and further.
Yeah, faster and further with this.
Yeah, for me it was a pretty obvious thing today. I usually ride behind you, and sometimes I see so your horns go out and you really go for it, and then I have to struggle to keep in contact. Usually, still I have an advantage being number 2, but still, I mean, you're pretty fast when you go. I didn't have to struggle so much today, so I think that just by it's so easy to handle.
It's easier to handle. And I think it's really good on these gravel roads that we've gone through today.
Yeah, the best motorcycle on these gravel roads that I've ever ridden, bar none. Yeah. Better than the 1290, better than the Tenere too. The Tenere was also good.
Yeah, it was, but there I lacked some power. Yeah.
That's more a relaxed bike. This one is more a sporty bike, I would say. So I mean, as a gravel rocket, wow. It's the best bike you can buy, basically. I think it was fantastic. I had so much fun on the dirt today.
Also on the tarmac, on the small tarmac road, it was also beautiful.
Handles like a small supermoto. In spite, I mean, it's got the Karoo tires, so obviously you can't lean it really.
No.
But still, you can have a lot of fun on these tires too. When it comes to long distance touring,
I wouldn't say it'd be any problem. I only have one issue with the saddle. You sort of slip forward. I think I'm sort of going forward on it, but
you're
more
forward on the saddle more than you like.
But otherwise, it feels really good. And I also experienced some of the turbulence that you were talking about with the windshield. Of course, now with off-road helmets, which is really bad.
More,
yeah. So if you tried it with a touring helmet, probably much. I guess.
I did it with the touring helmet. I went for like 200 kilometers yesterday on the bike, and I think it was the only thing that I dislike actually about this bike. I love everything about it. I'm not usually using it. I use strong words because I like this bike a lot. But there are things that this turbulence that sort of shakes your head a bit, and maybe I'm a bit taller than you, maybe it affects me more, But
did you try it in the different adjustments?
I did. I tried it with the on the high and the low position. I also unscrewed the entire screen, or the upper part of the screen, and tried that. And that's better but then you start to get more wind pressure instead. And, I find myself playing more with the 790. It's more playful.
Yeah,
it's more
it's really
fun
great.
to controllable, and it makes me feel better than I probably am.
Makes you a better driver.
Yeah, really. Okay, thank you everybody. It's been we had a great day anyway, and if you're thinking about buying the 790 Adventure R, do it. It's a superb bike. Thank you.
Thank you.